Well, hey, good evening. Welcome back to my little gardening show. I wanted to give you an update on my lettuce, kind of check things out, let you know how that's doing, and then talk a little bit about this upcoming growing season. So let's take a look. It's looking pretty healthy. Temperature's holding pretty good. It's 77.9. I think I've got it set at 78. It's a little bit warmer in here, about 57 degrees. Look how green everything is. It's really starting to put on some size. These leaves are about 4 or 5 inches long now. I mean, we could harvest this if we wanted to. And let it go a little bit longer. As far as a watering regimen, I've been using the Mittleider mineral mix. This basically it's a watered down version of the weekly feed. We call it the constant feed. Again, it's about a tablespoon of the fertilizer mix and about a teaspoon of Epsom salt. And then I've just got plain water. So what I've been doing is going over the grow boxes with about 32 ounces of this. It takes about 32 ounces to cover the whole area of the grow box. And then about 16 ounces of just regular water to wash everything in off the foliage so everything's down in the root zone. So overall that seems to be working out pretty well. I don't see any kind of really signs of deficiency in the plants here, other than the ones that are a little stunted because I'm not giving them enough light. You know, they're getting indirect light. Though now that the lettuce is getting taller, I'm able to raise those lights up. And so they are getting a little bit more light than what they have been. But I don't think, just kind of how things are going right now, I don't think they're going to really catch up. They're just going to continue to struggle along. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it is with plants. You know, if they don't get a good start, it's really hard to bring them along after that. And so that's why when I go to select them and stuff like that, I'm looking at the root mass, I'm looking at the foliage, I'm looking at symmetry, I'm looking at all these things that are kind of indicators that this thing's vigorous. You know, whatever I'm planting is vigorous, going to survive, going to grow pretty well. It's going to have the best chance relative to other, you know, seedlings, things like that don't have those characteristics. So that's just kind of the way it is. This weekend is supposed to be up in the 50s, I believe, so I do want to try to get these out to Dad's house. I know the last couple of weeks I've been talking about doing it and haven't because the weather's just been real cold, real just bad. I mean, for example, this morning we got probably about 6-7 inches of snow, followed by sleet, rain. Maybe we should paint outside and show you some of that. So it's mounting off pretty good right now because it's like in the probably upper 30s, 40s, and it rained a ton on the way home from work. So it melted down quite a bit of this snow, but I was 2 hours late to work this morning because I couldn't get out. When I tried pulling out, the car just sank down into the snowy ice mix and just compacted everything. I couldn't get any traction, so I had to kind of wait till everything melted off a little bit, and some four-wheel drives have made some trails through the neighborhood to get out.
What are you doing?
So it snowed a whole lot this morning, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You got some braces, didn't you?
Yeah, I have a lisp now.
You do have a lisp. That's hilarious.
It's not as bad as it was a week ago, though.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll get going here. It's getting close to bedtime, isn't it?
Yeah. Getting ready for school.
Yeah, it's important. All right, so we digress there a little bit, but anyway, the weather's been kind of just crazy. You know, a couple weeks ago it was in the 60s. Then it was like super cold. I don't know. It's just been really weird weather. So the garden this year, what are we going to do? Last year, staking it out using, basically putting stakes down and marking out the beds and using twine to mark everything out. That seemed to work really well. We also went with shorter beds, I think about 10, 15 foot long. Maybe 20 foot long was the longest, but that seemed to work really well. Have defined areas, a lot easier to water, somewhat easier to maintain. But we had a lot of dead space in the garden because we had really large pathways, and you can go back through some of my earlier videos if you want, kind of check that out. Last spring, kind of how we had everything laid out and stuff like that. Overall worked pretty well, but one of the things that I want to get better at is succession planning, and the idea that, you know, and there's a lot of people struggle with this, but do real good, a lot of energy, effort, planning at the front end of the year, get everything in the ground, watch it grow, harvest stuff, but then as things are being taken out, not making really good use of that space, like maximizing that space to grow more food. And so one of the goals this year is to try to have some succession planning going, where once we take a crop out, you know, we prep the beds again and stuff like that, we're ready to put something else back in, or sow something back in. We did a little bit of that with green beans and potatoes, and had some pretty good success with that, but the other crops not so much. For whatever reason, the lettuce didn't do as well this past year. Like, we just weren't able to get to it or harvest it in time. Part of it was just timing. We just didn't have the time available as in prior years to do that. So that's another thing I'm going to be kind of looking at, and try to get over there more consistently, track things a little bit better. So those are some things that I'm looking to do this year, just so that we take advantage of the space and we get a return on the investment. You know, ideally, I mean, it's nice regardless, even if we take a little bit of a loss with all, you know, resources, time, money we sink into the garden. The food's really good, and it's really nutritious and healthy, and we know what we're putting into it. We're controlling everything. It's convenient and all that. But I do want to get a little bit better on the cost, so that it's not a burden on the family, right, and taken away from other activities. I mean, it doesn't do any good to plant a 50 by 100 garden when you're eating out like 3 days a week or whatever, you know, because of time. We don't have time to actually prepare the food or store the food or harvest it, and it's out there in the field, and it either goes to seed, it rots, or you know, whatever, or we end up giving it away, right? Ideally, we'd like to use more of it. So that's another thing, hopefully this year, that we'll be a little bit better at as far as managing all that. So got all my seeds ordered. We got onion sets coming from Dixondale Farms again. I moved the date out a little bit because last year we, you know, just going on traditional dates. They came here and then the weather was just terrible, and we were delayed like 3 weeks before we could really get into the garden and plant anything because it was so cold, and weather was just not conducive to planting anything, you know, as early as maybe we would have in years past. So I did put the planting dates off a little bit, kind of give me a little buffer on that. Planning that maybe we'll have kind of a similar winter, spring. So those will be coming probably mid-April or so, mid to later April, I think. Yeah, I think it's maybe mid-April. Ordered a bunch of stuff from M.I. Gardner. I don't know if any of you guys have checked out his side, but if you Google that, they've got a little... Luke and his wife had this online store, and they sell a bunch of seed, and it's like 99 cents. Pretty good deal. So loaded up, got a lot of my stuff there. A few things from Baker Creek. Some things from Territorial Seed Company this year. And that's about it. We've got a decent amount of potatoes left over. I don't think we're going to be able to eat through all of them before it's time to plant them. And so more than likely I'll be using some of our own potatoes as seed potatoes for this next year, which should save me some money. Other than that, I think that's pretty well it. So kind of go from there. Again, try to get out this weekend to the greenhouse, get these boxes out there hopefully, and hopefully the weather's not going to be terrible next couple weeks or anything like that. Even if it is, hopefully it's not going to be like the teens, things like that. Hopefully it'll be like in the 30s and not much below that, because I haven't really done anything in the greenhouse using that space heater, so I don't know how much heat it's really going to retain or help out, you know, to keep things from freezing or, you know, keep things growing. That's another little point, is that, you know, with growing season and stuff, well, it'd be nice to get out there and plant some stuff, you know, late March and all that. What we found is that you could plant stuff out in kind of extreme, earliest or whatnot, but you end up stressing the plants out. They don't really grow that well. And then, whereas if you would have just waited a couple weeks, at least this has been my experience, put another crop in, same thing, maybe started a month later or whatever. Typically, what was started later catches up in terms of growth to the plants that were all stressed, that you kind of put them through a couple weeks of miserable weather that you really didn't need to, because it really didn't make much difference in the grand scheme of things. So at least that's been my experience, and that's without growing with any kind of protection or row covers or anything like that. Using a couple things like that would probably make a difference. But if you're just putting stuff out in the elements, you're better off just waiting till the weather is better. Same with the tomatoes in the late spring. You can try to get out there towards the beginning of May, get a jump start on things, and run the risk of some bad weather or frost. Cooler temperatures that the tomatoes are having to suffer through, whereas if you just wait to the end of May, where the temperatures are starting to rise and it's starting to get hot, put them in the ground there, and they're going to catch up, and be about where they would have been had you planted them a few weeks earlier. And again, it's because you're not putting the plants through all that stress, and ultimately stuff's going to grow a lot better at a higher temperature, or within that range of 55 to 85 degrees, 55 to 80, depending on what the crop is. So anyway, I guess that's it for now. Just some ramblings here about the garden, kind of what we're going to be doing this year, and some lessons learned. So hopefully you guys are enjoying my videos. Try to be a little bit better about making stuff more consistent this growing season, and we'll kind of go from there. So I guess that's it for now. Until next time, happy gardening.